correct. Interesting. Good afternoon and welcome to the September 6th, 2022 regular meeting of the Community Redevelopment Agency. I'd like to call the meeting to order. If everyone would please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Biondi.
Here.
Brantley.
Here.
Keim.
Here.
Gebhardt.
Here.
Slaughter.
Here.
We have all 5 board members here, and also in attendance is Council Liaison Tate.
All right, do I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
Motion. Second.
Call the roll.
Biondi.
Aye.
Brantley.
Aye.
Gebhardt.
Aye.
Keim.
Aye.
Slaughter.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes, the motion carries.
And I need a motion to approve the minutes from the June 7th, 2022 regular meeting.
Motion.
Second.
Call the roll.
Biondi.
Aye.
Brantley.
Aye.
Gebhardt.
Aye.
Keim. Slaughter.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes and the motion carries.
Thank you. Do we have any citizens' input at this time?
Madam Chair, we did receive an e-comment for the record, and that has been sent to the board and printed and given to the board.
We do not need to read this into the...
It's the board's discretion.
Did everybody see this? Do we need to read it? I don't think so. All right. It's in public record, correct? Okay, citizens' input? Seeing none? Oh.
You'll need to go to the podium, please, for input. Over there now? Yes, please.
Sorry, I didn't see you over there. I mean, I saw you there, I didn't see you.
Yes.
Hi, my name's Shelley Walton. First and foremost, I own Backstreet Sports Bar in the Cape on 47th Terrace. And second, 10 years ago, we started South Cape Hospitality and Entertainment Association, which you know as SHIA. That was 10 years ago. And from that, we started a 501c3 for Pride Cape Coral in 2018. Today, I'm here because 10 years ago, City Manager Zerlag basically removed the CRA board, as we all know, right? And City Council took over. At that time, Helen Ramey came to me and she said, is there any way that we can form a group to keep some of these great events that we've started here in the CRA because we can no longer supply them? So we did. We took about 5 of us from the South Cape businesses and we started a 501c6. And for 10 years, we've been running trolley events. Allison from Zach's recently jumped on the board. Well, not recently, but she got some business retail, which we were unable to do, but we've got some business events going on. We've got a trick or treat for families. We have a gift or treat at Christmas. We have a Easter egg hunt. We're looking at trying to do a food truck rally on Lafayette because nothing's happening on Lafayette. And we do our trolley events. Our trolley events have always been our bread and butter. However, as you know, in March of 2020, we were shut down just like the bars and restaurants. When they got shut down, we got shut down. And even though in the restaurant and bar business, we had a record year last year because we were the land of the free and everybody from everywhere was coming down here, our trolley events didn't quite do the same thing. People were still skittish about being in large groups, I guess. Or they were unfamiliar with our trolley events because they weren't locals. Anyway, we had salaries to pay. We had our retail spot to pay, which, by the way, we have that rent down to $600 a month, subletting to myself and Pride. We built that because the South Cape lacks in retail spots, so we thought we could open up a pretty cute souvenir shop. It would act as a meeting place. It would be a check-in location, and it would also be our storage unit, which was something we needed. We did that, and then we got shut down immediately after we signed the lease for that. It was probably within 2 weeks. We had 2 people on staff, and now we have this unit, and we're not selling any of our goods because we're not even open. So we thought we would be able to recover in 2021, but like I said, we're not able to recover because people were still skittish. We are recovering in 2022, but unfortunately, everything is so high priced. The trolleys being our number one cost of almost $5,000 an event. Are you going to shut me off, or can I finish?
Go ahead and finish.
Okay, thanks. So it's $5,000 for each event for the trolley.
Sorry.
For the trolley events. We can no longer put these on. And if you think that we don't have a good thing going on down here and you don't think that we bring anything to the table for this, then so be it. But I can assure you that we didn't get a streetscape because we were living in Cape Coma or home of the newlywed nearly dead. We had our hand in that. We brought fun to the South Cape. We brought fun to the entertainment district. We did it single-handedly. The South Cape businesses livened it up. And I think most of you probably understand that. We got a streetscape out of it. I also had many business owners tell me that they see the value of what we do. It may not be the value of that particular evening because it costs a lot of money for each individual venue owner to host a spot, but it's the return value. It's the people coming over the bridge noticing that we have something to do in Cape Coral. It's the people loving it and becoming regular customers. I was told the grant money was only good for family events. Well, I'm sorry, but I know how much money I do a year. I know how much property taxes I pay. I know how much sales tax I create. So why is it that my volunteer job has to go defunct because we can't get any help from the city? The River District Alliance in downtown Fort Myers gets upwards of $200,000 from the city to put on events. And I think we've done a pretty good job putting on events with a staff of 2. We can no longer afford to keep going. We're asking to be included in the grants, and I've been trying for about 6 months to figure out if this is actual money that the CRA has been given on the budget for writing a check to our trolley company. I'm not looking for anything else. And I'm told it's only logistics. Then I'm told there's money there, and I go back and forth for about 6 months. I would love to get an answer for that. Yeah, go ahead.
No, time, another minute, and that's,
A minute, you're going to cut me off?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll roll on to New Year's Eve.
go on.
I'll roll on to New Year's Eve. Just so you guys know, we had, out of 4 bike nights, she had 2 bike nights. Those were taken away from us, and now we don't have that income coming in. And we were given New Year's Eve because it was ours, and then we decided to partner with the city. Now I'm being told that New Year's Eve is potentially moving to the bridge. I know there's a $50,000 budget. I'm not sure how you're going to put fireworks at the bridge for $50,000. But I'm urging you to not move that to the bridge, bring it back to where it started, which is with Shia and us, and I'm asking for the same respect that you gave the chamber. I need sponsorship money, I need vendor money, and I need the beer money. And I know that was the deal with the chamber years ago, so I don't know why we can't do that. We've proven ourselves for 2 years putting on a great New Year's Eve event. All we wanted to do was partner and make it even better. We make money in our businesses without the event, but I don't want to see it go away. And also, we lost bike night to the Rotary, but we were giving New Year's Eve beer money. That's not a very good exchange because for bike night, I do 0. I open my doors and I make money. For New Year's Eve, I've got to work 80 to 100 hours on that event to make less money than I do on a bike night. So I don't think that was a fair trade either. And I'm here to speak because I felt like for the last 10 years, I've donated a lot of time to my community, and I'm fine doing it, but I need a little help from the city, okay? Please consider it. Thanks.
Thank you, Shelley. Does anybody, oh, go ahead, John.
Thank you. John Gunter for the record. Thank you, Commissioners, for the opportunity to speak. My topic of discussion is a little differently. As we all know, CRA, our main objective is for revitalization in the area. And I just wanted to tell the Commissioners of a program up north that I was involved in that I think would possibly be an asset for the businesses in the CRA area. Many years ago, I used to personally do work in the city of Annapolis, and it was a historic district, but it was very similar to the CRA as well. And what they did up there is to try to get the existing businesses to improve their facade or the outside of their business. They developed a grant program for the businesses in that particular area. And I think that would be advantageous for the existing businesses in the CRA if we could come up with a program very similar to that. Now, I'm not just talking about, to paint the front of the building. I'm talking a substantial improvement and try to decide a criteria of how you could apply this type of program. I know you've already approved your budget for this year, but I would ask this commission to possibly, in workshops in the coming months, to maybe have a discussion. First off, I guess you guys would have to decide if you have an appetite to have that discussion. But if you would, you could work in workshops, develop a plan. Just to tell you a little bit about the plan that I was involved in, it had to be a substantial improvement on the facade on the exterior of the building. And how they did it, if I recall correctly, it had to be at least a $50,000 improvement, and that the CRA area would match it dollar for dollar for up to like $25,000. But those type of numbers you'll have to set in the criteria. But I think what that will do, well, that may spur some revitalization down there on the existing businesses. As we all know, we have some new businesses coming to the area, and I think that will be the COVID 47th will be a catalyst project for the area. But we have to make sure that we're doing something to improve the other businesses, maybe have a program. So I just would ask this commission to maybe entertain that discussion in a future workshop. To see if there's something there, maybe for next year's budget, that we could put some dollars towards that would not only help the particular businesses, but more importantly, help the entire area of the CRA to get that revitalization that we're looking for. So thank you.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to suggest that we hold off on the discussion for Shia until the item actually comes up in the agenda, and we'll just move down the agenda. We can also, if you want, we can talk about what the mayor has suggested, or we can put that towards the end. What are your thoughts?
I wouldn't mind seeing us schedule a workshop to discuss it. I don't know that right now is maybe the time to take it up and try to jump in with both feet, but I mean, as he was explaining it, I already have some questions that and thoughts about it. But rather than tie up this meeting, I think maybe what we do is try to schedule a workshop and discuss it in greater length. And
I agree.
Yeah.
We had several years back, probably, I don't know, 08, 09. It's on. We had facade grants. It wasn't matching funds or anything, but it was, if a building was in very bad disrepair, they would come to us. And I forget what the cap was as far as the money, but it was a program at that time. And then we ran out of money, so we didn't do it. Now we're in a different position. So I think we should schedule something to look at that, and then we can bring up all our questions and go from there. Is that okay with everybody? Do we need a vote on this, or can we just agree?
I agree.
Okay. All right, so we'll go on to, there is no unfinished business. We have nothing on the consent agenda. So let's go right to new business. CRA Resolution 9-22 to approve the interlocal agreement between the CRA and the city to fund the artist to create artwork for public art projects within the CRA district. Julie, did you want to speak to this?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Commissioners. For the record, Julie Gerhard, Recreation Program Supervisor at the Cape Coral Arts Center. I have a presentation for you today regarding the concrete enclosures in the CRA. And as you know, last year, the utility box art project and the roundabout project were very successful. And there was interest in adding some more art, and one of the potential locations was these concrete enclosures that go around dumpsters along 47th Terrace. So there are two locations we're looking at for a pilot project to see how the project will move forward, and both of those are in Big John Plaza. The process will be very similar, as you're familiar with what we used for the roundabout and the utility boxes. We'll post the call to artist, and the commissioners will score the artwork, and then we'll present each of the highest rated scored artwork to all of you, and then you can make your selections from there. And then administratively, we process the contracts and purchase orders and make sure that everything is in order for the artwork to be installed. So the artist stipend breakdown, we looked at, it's very common for murals and mixed media murals to be priced per square foot. So we went with a $17.50 per square foot. And based on those measurements, we developed the artist stipend. And this will include labor, installation, insurance requirements, and everything that the artist is required to maintain. So the total expenditure requested today for this project, and as I said, it's potentially a pilot project because there's only the two this round, is a total of $8,340. Part of the process is ensuring that the surfaces are prepared for the artwork to be received, and any landscaping removal so the artwork is able to be viewed. And you had already approved a budget for the Founders Park, so I didn't include that on this presentation, but if you have any questions regarding that today, I'd be happy to answer those for you. And that kind of concludes the wrap-up of the project for the concrete enclosures. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Anybody? Go ahead, Janice.
So I just want to clarify, we're not doing wraps, we're actually going to paint. Is that correct? Okay.
And with regard to the Founders Park project, have we solicited artists as of yet, or where are we? I missed last meeting, and I'm maybe
Oh, no, that's fine.
this has already been answered, but where are we in that process?
The project will be funded October 1 in fiscal year '23, so on October 1, that first week, we'll move forward with posting the call to artists and start to advertise, and that will be posted to all Florida artists, if that's all right with the commission. And the concrete enclosures is only going to be Lee County, so we can really, it's kind of a smaller project, smaller budget, and we can showcase our local talent that way.
Is the mixed media still an option for the garbage can container things?
Yeah, definitely. Part of the call to artists will detail their material list, and that will be taken into consideration on the part of the selection process if we think that the materials of that mixed media can withstand our, Florida hurricanes and sun and everything. Thank you.
Any other comments? We're looking forward to this. This will be very exciting.
Yeah, me too.
So I will need a motion to approve Resolution 9-22.
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 9-22.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Biondi. Brantley.
Aye.
Gebhard.
Aye.
Keim. Slaughter.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes and the motion carries.
Thank you. All right, next item is the CBDC request for lease renewal. Did you want to start?
Yes, Madam Chair. The CRA received a letter from the SBDC requesting a 2-year renewal at no cost with an option to renew at the end of its term. They received a letter requesting that from the CRA. City staff has made a recommendation. You'll see that in your packet. The staff's recommendation was that the lease not be renewed and be immediately terminated by giving notice to the tenant. Staff further recommended that all past due late fees and penalties be forgiven. But to refresh your memory a bit, our original recommendation was for the board to consider a 1-year lease at no cost, provided that the payments be brought up to date. The last payment that has been received for rent for the property was received in April. I wanted to let you know that today, just before the meeting, the new director, regional director for the SBDC contacted us and is here today and would like to speak to the board if that's all right with you.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. My name is Dorian Zvjerevich. I'm the new regional director at the SBDC at FGCU. I come here from the SBDC in Pensacola. I've been there for 9 years, where I've moved up the ranks, and then recently, less than 2 months ago, accepted the position here. And Miss, I forget your name one more time. Bice? Yes. So I'm actually here to ask for the original proposal where we get caught up to where we should be on all of the past due, and also renegotiate a 2-year lease and officially ask you guys for 1 year at no cost. I have some things that I printed here. I don't know if I'm allowed to approach and give it to you guys, or is this something that I need to submit formally? A timeline of emails?
I'm not sure.
Also not sure. I could email it after the meeting if that's fine and just give you a synopsis.
We have copies, if it's going in the record.
One more time? Yeah. And I also have documentation. I'm trying to be as brief as possible. So I don't know how to activate the overhead, though. Okay.
Excuse me.
Okay, one more question. How do I zoom in on this?
It's good. It's fine. It
Yeah, we
is
can-
perfect.
oh.
Oh, well.
Too far.
Okay. So first and foremost, me looking back, realize that I'm coming from the outside in, from Panhandle, Florida, know nobody here in Southwest Florida. So I'm trying to be as objective as possible. I have very limited information available to me because we have had a lot of turnover at the SBDC since before my arrival, so I just physically do not have access to former employees' emails. What's known to me is there was a rodent issue the earliest I could find, so the city's records may be different, was July 2021, and some leaking tiles. And it kind of happened every couple of months. In my opinion, the city was very, very responsive to the problems, but the rodent issue kind of came back. It is my understanding, so the rodent issue happened in July 2021, August 2021. There was a smell issue in August and September, flies and smell in September, another rodent issue in October, rodent issued in November, heard nothing in December, heard nothing in January except everything's good from my staff. And of course, I could provide the email documentation to you guys as well. Just, I want to be an open book with everybody. And then in March 4th, there was another rodent issue. And then 2 days later, the interim director, at the recommendation of the College of Business, sent out an email to the staff saying, you guys can't go into this building anymore. Like it would affect our funding or health, things like this, because we have to justify, we can't allow our employees to work in this type of building. It is to my understanding, because I visited the building, that is pretty much okay. There are kind of two main issues, and I have pictures I went over during Labor Day as well. Some of the ceiling tiles, because the roof hasn't been replaced yet, need to be replaced. They look like they have black mold. I'm more than happy to show you the pictures from my phone if you want. But that's really the biggest issue. And then just one tiny issue is there's just one more rat above a ceiling tile that I found personally. I also have a video for you guys if you guys want to, and a picture. And I found it over the weekend. I think that our relationship going back to 2006 has been really, really good, and I want to continue this. So I would like to propose to the College of Business that we get caught up on rent. I'm okay paying for the cleaning fee for, we have to pay for the cleaning fee anyway. Just there's some rodent fur in the vents and everything. And I would ask that the city or the CRA, whoever's responsible, as soon as I get those replacement tiles, I could move my people in right away. And then I could tell you exactly where that rodent is. I just need that thing removed too. I just personally didn't want to do it myself. And we're very interested in re-upping the lease. I would hope that you guys give a new regional director a chance of showing you guys how great the SBDC could be, because I think our partnership and our collaborative nature really benefits the business community here. With that being said, I'm more than happy to answer any questions. And I understand it's perfect timing, sorry.
I believe we have Damon Grant here from our Property Management Division who can provide some information on what's been done there, because we do acknowledge that there have been some maintenance issues.
They've been working on the outside and painting and all that, so if we can get an update on exactly what's happening, that would be great.
Good afternoon, Damon Grant for the record, Manager of Property Management Division for the city. The improvements that have recently been completed involved the ramp at the front of the building, ADA ramp. We had done some peeling away of the existing surface, exterior surface and facade of the building, and re-lathing and then stuccoing the building, followed by paint and fascia and soffit. So that's the work that we've been undertaking for the last several months. As far as the rodent issue, when we were made aware of it through our work order system, we utilized 2 vendors, outside vendors, that had responded and did what they could, as well as our staff. And I think that some of those issues are the position of the building directly behind McDonald's. I think there was a grease trap and some dumpsters that we worked with the neighbors to relocate away from the building. And anytime you're getting into rodents and pests, sometimes that can be a little bit of a lingering issue until you really take away the food supply and seal up the building and then work to anything that's in the building to eradicate. So we were setting traps for several months, and we got to the point where we weren't having any catches in our traps, and we continue to do that, and we'll continue to monitor it. But that's where we are with the improvements. As far as the roof, that's phase 2 of our project, so we will be coming in the near future to look to improve the roof and hopefully mitigate any of the issues with the wet ceiling tiles that we have currently. I'll have to look at the scope. I know that there's 2 parts. There's a built-up roof and there's a shingle roof. One, I think the shingle is a replacement, and the built-up roof may be a repair. But I can look at that scope, and I'd be happy to send it to the members of the board. You're welcome.
I've got another question. From your perspective right now, is the building as it sits today suitable to be rented?
Yes, in my opinion, from a facilities perspective, I think that the building's fine. I mean, it's an older building, and older buildings tend to have issues, but again, we've been improving those as we come along, and if there's anything out there that the tenant finds that they can't deal with, we try to respond that day, depending on the type of the request or the urgency of the request. And we're looking at not only at capital improvements, but inside, We will bring any of the cleaning groups. We'll bring indoor air quality, where we can work with our other divisions to come in and do mold testing. And I think we have done some of the indoor air quality, and we didn't find any mold that I'm aware of. But as those things come up and you do get moisture into the building, or if there is a leak, a small leak in the roof that sometimes are difficult to locate, you'll need to, you'll get moisture in there, and you'll have to go in on a number of different occasions to check indoor air quality to make sure that there is no mold or any spikes and any of the other things that may cause, some sort of an issue, a health issue, or cause the building to be, pushed for not to be occupied. So none of that is, we're not at that point, knock on wood, but we're happy to continue to monitor that and make recommendations.
The new roof or the repairs to the roof, are they in next year's budget?
Fiscal year '23, yes.
Okay, so would that happen like sooner rather than later in the year?
Well, we have a process that we're following, but yes, as soon as we can get through that process, we're going to start that project.
Okay, only because whoever rents the building is going to have a problem with a leaking roof, I would think. So I would think that should be fixed sooner rather than later.
That's what I'm kind of wondering, if the roof is yet to be done and the roof is the source of at least some of these problems. If it's even wise to have anybody in there until we get the building finished, instead of working around people or putting people in a building we know is having ongoing problems. I'm just wondering if we shouldn't stop what we're doing, get the building up to where we want it to be and it needs to be, and then seek to rent it. I'm concerned if it sounds like the rodent problem has been resolved, but there's cleaning issues and water issues, and I don't know.
I'll just add one, quick note that, we have several buildings in the city of Cape Coral. At any one time, we could have several leaks, or, they're minor leaks. But what we look to do is go and repair those leaks until a more holistic solution can be found, or a permanent solution. So if there is an issue within the 1231 Lafayette Street location, find it, patch it, and then make sure that it's not leaking until the permanent roof replacement can be made. And that's typically what we do throughout the city. Any other questions?
Anybody else?
Yeah, I've got a
Go
question.
ahead.
Two questions. One, when the city leased that building, were we aware of all those problems? And if not, my second question then, and I'll read this. I'm reading from the staff report. It's recommended that the lease not be renewed and immediately terminated by giving notice to the tenant. It's further recommended all past dues, late fees, and penalties be forgiven. So it kind of sounds like we're in a fight, but we don't want to be in a fight. So now the question becomes is staff's recommendation based on the suitability of the building, or is it now a problem with the tenant that they don't want to renew?
I'm not sure, is it
I can
from a
answer that
facility? Okay.
The recommendation is based on the fact that we recognize and acknowledge the fact that there were maintenance issues and that the building wasn't being used. We knew that the building wasn't being used by the SBDC, even though we have
So
an
it's kind of a
active
nor
lease.
harm, nor foul?
Right.
But now the next question is there a reluctance on the city to renew another type of lease, especially what Mr. Brantley said, assuming that building's now suitable for inhabitant? So is there an interest, two questions, is there an interest, once the building is fixed, to lease that out? And two, if it's so, will the city then open that lease decision up to the small business administration as well as others?
I think City Manager Rob
Thank you,
Hernandez would
Rob.
like to answer.
Chair recognizes.
Good afternoon, members of the board. So when staff prepared the agenda item for this meeting today, we had not had any contact, despite repeated attempts by our staff to reach out to the SBDC to find out, hey, what's going on. Initially, we were supportive of the SBDC's request because we acknowledged that there were some factors that hindered their ability to occupy the building. So again, when it went, I believe, several months without any response whatsoever, we prepared the agenda packet. Now, I did receive an email from Dorian just this morning, and he's in attendance today. And I think knowing that he is committed to working with the city and continue to provide these much-needed services within the CRA, I think that changes our position considerably. It's a totally different ballgame now. And so had we had that conversation earlier, we would have amended the agenda report. So I think that going forward, we will address the remaining issues that exist in that building with respect to the roof leak and removal of any of our uninvited visitors that may be going over to that building. But we are sure that we can make that building more than suitable for occupancy. The CRA has spent a considerable amount of money rehabilitating that building over the last 2 years to get it where it needs to be.
Last question, is it then staff's, go back to the agenda item, is the staff's recommendation still then that the request still be denied, but with an understanding that it's going to be reestablished and brought forward again, or at least for consideration?
So I think what we'd like to do, Commissioner, is to sit down with Dorian and see if we can move forward with the initial plan, which again was to bring the SBDC current on its rental payments. And again, recognizing that there were problems that made the building uninhabitable for a considerable amount of time. That's why we would be open to recommending a 1-year no-cost extension.
I have a question.
I'm sorry, I thought you were saying 2, because I know Dorian had indicated that he was open to a 2-year extension, 1 year being at no cost, 1 year, I assume, with the rental payments, and we would be okay with that.
So do we vote on this today, or do we table it for a future meeting? Yes?
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Mr. Hernandez, is it staff's, or Ms. Bice, is it your recommendation perhaps that the CRA continue this matter until their next meeting to give staff an opportunity to work with the SBDC to try to resolve some of these issues and come forward perhaps with a joint or unified recommendation?
Yes.
Yes, but I have one question, and I don't want to tell you how to do your job, but back to the city manager. But sometimes if it's easier to kill this agreement so one can be started over. In other words, I don't know if it's easier to kick the can down the road, or do you want this killed, but the understanding, in other words, you're no longer operating on it, under it anyways. And to me, that's problematic. In other words, I don't like rules. If we're not going to follow the rules, let's get the rule done.
No, in light of the developments that happened just late this afternoon, it is our recommendation that you continue the item.
All right.
Allow us to work with Dorian. Again, he's brand new to this area. Give us an opportunity to establish that relationship with him and attempt to resolve this issue. And if we can't resolve it, then we'll be back to you with a different recommendation.
Okay, so we will need a motion to continue this to our next meeting, perhaps? Would that be sufficient? That's sufficient time?
I'll make a motion to table this issue regarding the Lafayette Street building and the relationship and lease with FGCU until the next meeting.
Yeah, and I'll second it.
It's actually a motion to continue.
To continue.
And the second degrees?
Second?
Call the roll, please. We're continuing, not tabling, correct? Yes.
Biondi.
Aye.
Brantley.
Aye.
Gebhardt.
Aye.
Keim. Aye. Slaughter.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes and the motion carries.
Thank you. Okay. Our next issue is to review our CRA special event policy. And I've taken a look at it, and I kind of think, in my opinion, our guidelines have worked for us for quite some time. And unless anybody else has something different, I would say we should just continue along with this. If somebody has something different that they want to bring up, if there's any discussion, let's do that now before we go to sponsorship requests.
Has anything changed in the past couple of years? Because I'm pretty sure, I remember us switching or attempting to switch something. Is it the same as it's been for the last 10 years, or is it?
Not the last 10, but we did cap the amount of money that we gave. We didn't do that in the past, but we have a cap on how much money. And I think, from what I'm understanding, because I've asked some questions here, we can legally do a lot of things, but our guidelines don't allow us to do some of those things. So I think we need to look at the guidelines, make sure this is what we want to live with, and we can go from there. So I'd like to start a discussion on this before we go to the next item.
I have a question.
Okay.
So right now, the grants that we've given out to the different organizations have been mostly like with police and stuff like that, or barriers, correct? Okay. And the events that we've helped out with have been free to the general public, right?
Yes.
It's open to all ages. Trying to think what else. And there had to be over 1,000 people, is that correct?
Correct. Those are within our guidelines.
All that's already in here. And we're not allowed, of course, just to hand over money. It has to be
No,
for,
it has to be for specific,
specific things.
yeah. You know, if you have a stage, we can transfer the money from the CRA to Parks and Rec for their stage. We can transfer money to, you know, it's like paper transfers. You're sending money from the CRA to the police department for their special detail for an event. If I may, as much as Shia has done for South Cape, and they have, I found it amazing back in the day that people who usually compete with one another banded together and worked together to a goal. And I thought that was pretty cool. What we all have to realize is besides 47th Terrace and some of the restaurants that aren't on 47th Terrace, that are on the trolley runs, the CRA encompasses a lot more space than that. We have other businesses, we have residents, we have a lot of things where the money that's coming into the CRA, we have to be careful how we spend it. Historically, we've spent the money on events that were free to all people, not just 21 and over. We've got to be careful with the trolleys themselves. I don't know, are they handicap accessible? Because if they're not, that could be a problem for us as well, as the CRA being a sponsor. I don't know how many of the trolley events, besides the one in January, how many bring in more than 1,000 people? And then, on top of that, you charge for a ticket. And we've always sponsored free events that were open to everybody. So I'm kind of hesitant, much as I want to help everybody, and we do, but we have to be careful how we spend other people's money and where it's all going to go. So that's my thoughts right now. If anybody else has any comments, I'd love to hear them.
But you're on the guidelines, right?
We're on our guidelines.
Yeah, point of order, we're talking about 9C, not 9D, right? All right.
I think for the guidelines, the age part of it, I don't know if we necessarily need to have it open to only, all ages events, because there aren't, every event's not an all ages event.
Most of what's happened downtown or South Cape
Right.
are open to everybody, even bike night. You could bring your 4-year-old if you want. Not that you would, but you could.
Well, my thought about that, I agree in principle, but bike night is the one hang up for me that in which, I mean, we can say bike night is open to all ages, but I mean, really, it's not designed that way. It's done at night for a reason. And it's mainly an adult event. I think that the hinge for me, the difference is not having an admission charge, right? And having an admission charge, and my concern is, are we opening this up to other groups who may want to come here, even a nonprofit, to say, we're gonna put on an event and charge X, Y, and Z, and we want CRA money, even in kind services. How do we then, if we've not done that before and now we're going to do it, how do we do that without saying yes to one and no to another?
I don't know.
And I don't think
That's
that's
why we're having the
necessarily
discussion.
a bad thing to have somebody making money with an event. Like, if the event's going to bring more people to downtown Cape Coral and they're making, you know, money on that event to possibly use for other events, you know, in our downtown district or the CRA district, I don't see that as being a huge, you know, negative.
No, I don't know that it's, I don't want to say that it's a negative. It's certainly because these are nonprofits, so that's not the issue. The issue is that we haven't done that in the past. Now we're going to do that. Are we really expanding the horizon of people who might be seeking these grants? I don't know. On the other hand, the trolley events are popular and they are beneficial to the South Cape. And the businesses in the South Cape and CRA certainly benefit.
And from my understanding, without the money coming in from some of these trolley events, there won't be money for the other events that are open to all of the family stuff, like the, you know, trick or treat for the kids and.
Well, that was my thoughts too. If we're going to, and we'd be happy to give money for events, why not the Halloween event for the trick or treat? Why not the Christmas thing? Why not the Easter egg hunt? Where those are open to everybody, you're not charging anybody for that. And we could certainly help with police presence, with road closures, with whatever it takes to put those on. The Pride event, we'd be more than happy to help you with that. But the city already takes that. So, you know, where are we here? And what the other people within the CRA, the other businesses within the CRA, for us to support an event that's already making a profit, I don't know if that's going to fly very well with them. And I don't know, do we open this back up?
Yeah, point of order.
Yeah, we're still on the policy.
Yeah, we're still talking about policy. We need to stop directing any comments on an agenda item that hasn't been talked about yet. And the only reason I say that is we go through the criteria where Ms. Brantley made a comment. Well, how can we do this or that? Well, you know what? We can say no to dumb ideas. In other words, historically, certain projects have been done. I imagine if they weren't well received, they might not come again. But each and every new project, brand new, and I've done these permits in my career, and you sit down and your first thing is, what are going to be the negative externalities? What can basically hit the fan? And you start going through that, and then you see what level of service will it impact and all that. So my thought, if that's the concern, then we need to be built better criteria in our own thing, but also work with staff, because at the end of the day, it's what's going to give them the hardship. So, you know, my only thought is, if that's your concern, I think everyone needs to go back and read those policy and come back at our next meeting with some notes and ideas. Because I'll be honest, I didn't quite understand what the agenda item was even for. I mean, I read it, I looked at it, but I'm like, I didn't know what direction you were going with it. Something you want to add, something you want to change or take away.
Well, do we want to change the guidelines? That's the question. Or do we want to continue with the guidelines that we have?
The guidelines we have, do they specifically address this issue of only free events? And if so, where, can somebody point me where in the policy, our current policy or guideline, it says that? I mean, I understand that's been the practice, but is it written, is that spelled out of the current guideline or policy?
Good question.
If I may, I think your current guidelines describe a situation where it says, special events do not include social parties, conferences, open houses, grand openings, ribbon cutting ceremonies, or events that are not open to the public. And to some extent, I think that's where you're circling right now. What does it mean to you to be an event that is open to the public? Yes, if you look up above that on the first page where it says guidelines for eligibility, it has the 1,000-person minimum, it has some other factors like that. But right now, where you're circling is what does it mean to be open to the public? Does that mean open to the public at no charge? Does that mean open to the general public so that anyone who wants to attend is free to attend at no charge? Does it mean anyone is welcome to attend, but you may have to be over a certain age, for example? What does it mean to be open to the public? I think that's to a great extent what you're talking
It's
about.
not a private event, that anyone that wants to attend can, assuming they, in this case, pay a fee and they're of legal age. So it can't, our policy says you can't use it for an event in which you're excluding any group or trying to do it only for a certain group. But with regard to the issue that we were talking about, which is paid events versus non-paid events, it really doesn't say that in the
Doesn't
policy.
say anything there.
So I don't, the first thing I would like to do is make a motion to approve the extension of the existing policy as written. Make a motion to extend the existing policy.
Any second? For our guidelines as they stand.
Right.
So, this document, all right.
On the agenda item that we're on C, I would like to renew our guidelines as they are currently written.
He made a motion, but do we have a second?
I'll second it. Can we have discussion after that?
We can have discussion
Okay,
before we call the roll, sure.
after you call the roll?
No,
Oh,
before.
okay. So, my thinking, and I used to be a hostess on the Charlies, and I remember we used to have sponsorships and banners and stuff like that to help with the financial cost of it. And I do agree that, like, we help out with the veterans parades and stuff like that with police, that instead of going to the city, we should be going to the CRA to help with that. I brought my grandson to the Easter egg hunt, so I'm familiar with that and the trick or treat. I think we could do more to help those events out, and maybe that will help compensate with the Charlies. I do agree with Shelley that doing an event at the bridge New Year's Eve, to me, New Year's Eve especially, even over bike night, is more of an adult holiday, even though young people will come out to 47th Terrace New Year's Eve. But fireworks, to me, is not like New Year's Eve, you blow them up at midnight. My 5-year-old son.
Point of order here, one
Okay.
more time. We're on C, we're not on D yet.
Oh, okay.
We're just approving whether we're going to approve the guidelines as they sit now, or are we going to look at them and change them? Commissioner Brantley made the motion to approve the existing guidelines. I
And
forget who
can,
seconded
I
it.
second
so
it.
with the guidelines that we have now, are we able to give actual funds, or is it still just in
I
kind?
think that's the next discussion.
Yeah, I think
This
that's
is-
answered in some of the material we have. I think you can't give direct. I think, it's gotta be, you've gotta be paying for something.
So instead of giving direct money, if we're gonna pay for something that's got a receipt to it, we can just pay whatever that is
To that vendor.
to that vendor.
That's the
And then the
AGO,
city will,
that's the AGO's opinion.
Rather
So that's the
than
next agenda item.
and that's in the guidelines as that right now.
Your city attorney's office has opined that if co-sponsoring an event with nonprofit, they recommend the CRA directly pay vendors for the products. And if Dolores would like to,
That's why when you're talking about us partnering with the city, you're talking about us giving money to the city. But when you're talking about us giving money to a 501c3, for example,
Right. That's
for that,
different.
we don't give them the money, we do the in-kind donation. For example, the stage, a tent,
Right. We do a lot of in-kind
I don't know what else.
monies. It's transferable, it's a paper thing. It goes from CRA funds into Parks and Rec funds or police funds.
But could that be anything, or like, say for
According to
Pride?
this, we can pay a vendor direct.
Okay,
We can pay a vendor direct. What we have to do with the motion and the second that's on the floor is, do we okay these guidelines as they sit and then move on to what events we're going to handle here? That's
Yeah.
where we are.
Yeah, I'm just making sure on the guidelines part that I fully understand.
Okay. Anyone else? Can we call the roll?
Biondi,
Aye.
Brantley,
Aye.
Gebhardt,
Aye.
Keim,
Aye.
Slaughter. We
Aye.
have 5 ayes to accept the policy as it is currently written.
Correct. All right, now we go on to the complicated issue. Sponsorship request for Spooktacular Drink and Treat Trolley event. Shelley, are you going to speak again?
You adopted the guidelines to sit as they are, so that means you're not going to change anything.
No,
No, that's not what that means.
The opposite.
Sit, no, it doesn't. Give us an opportunity. Sit down. Give us an opportunity.
Listen, it's either I function up and the city can start hiring more direct people and pick up events, or
Please sit down and give us an opportunity, please.
I'm done with my volunteer job.
Okay.
We're all volunteers too, I get it.
We're volunteering here as well. And we do volunteer for a lot of things. What we have to realize, and I think this is what everybody on this board has to think about, is how we spend the money that's entrusted to us for the CRA. We have art projects, we have event projects. We can help with a lot of things. And it's how it's all presented, and it's not quite sure what else to say. I think Jim has some good points. I think I've had some good points. I think Janice has had some good points. Greg has had some good points. We need to get this all out in the open and figure out what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. So, who wants to start?
I will make a motion for purposes of discussion to approve the sponsorship request made by the South Cape Spectacular Drink and Treat Trolley event.
And I'll second it.
Discussion.
All right. Go ahead.
Is that is that motion for a like-kind donation to pay for the trolleys
Yes,
for up to the amount of $5,000
yes,
to the trolley vendor?
the trolleys, directly to the trolleys. My feeling is this, I think, in looking at the agenda and considering this before this meeting, when I was thinking about it, I was drawing a line in my mind on events that people pay for and those that don't. And historically, my understanding was there has been a line there. But in our discussion on C today, that's not what the policy says. And our policy, through our own discussion, has been working okay. Secondly, and I think hospitality needs to understand that if we make this motion to approve it for this event, that does not commit us to provide sponsorship and the trolleys at every one of these events. And I don't think that should be our obligation. But that organization, which I think we all agree has done tremendous things in South Cape and within the CRA, has been through the same thing that a lot of other businesses and nonprofits have through this whole COVID thing. And so I look at their application and they seem to check all the boxes that we require in the policy. I mean, I don't see anything that they're short on for this event. So with regard to this application, this time, I gotta tell you, I've changed my view of it since this meeting started. And I think this time, it's a part of the budget, it benefits the city, it benefits the CRA. I'm in favor of helping out this time.
And I think these kind of events, I have a business down there, they don't directly affect my business. We don't usually participate in the trolley events because we're, a smaller crowd generally, and they're larger events. And even though we don't directly benefit from it, it helps the visibility of the CRA area, and just keeping us in the minds of the people that are out there, like, oh, there's more stuff going on in downtown Cape Coral and the CRA district in South Cape. And I don't know who else is going to do that if, what other events are bringing people to our area in large, quantities like they are in other cities. So I think that's a valuable thing to keep funding these events in the future, even after, this event, and especially if they keep, if they stay within the parameters. That's just my 2 cents, having a business down there that doesn't participate as much.
Well, yeah, I was thinking, especially what Mr. Brantley said was, you got to follow the rules that you have. If you want to change them, we can change them at a later date. So if the guidelines are, we look at it, but there are events that you do pay money at, but they are open. So it may cost you a wristband. And at the end of the day, my question back to them was, how many years have this been done in various things? Because when you are government, when you just make a decision to not necessarily pull the rug out from under them, but that's what you're doing. They're counting on this funding year in and year out. So if that funding is going to change, I think we are obligated to let them know, hey, next year it may be a different, proposal.
I've never funded a trolley event.
Okay, but in this particular case, we've had 2 or 3 years of hell, of just near misses. Hey, we're going to get back on track. Nope, COVID this. Then the second wave, other things have happened where those fits and starts, and I'm at a level too where the people who are them early adopters who continue to go to bat for the business community, this is one of those things where if they don't do it, nobody else will. And in this time, as we start to now come out from, into some stability of normalcy, I like seeing these things. And the question becomes, is that a good use of public dollars or not? You know what, you have a set amount of money, and this isn't necessarily a use it or lose it, but this is, you've earmarked it for certain events. Now the question is, does it meet that criteria, yes or no? And if it doesn't, we can certainly deny it. But if it does, what would be the reasons we would do that? And that's why I'm supporting it.
So I have a question. If we're going by the guidelines, what if they sell 700 tickets and they don't hit the 1,000? Are we still okay with that?
When they come back next year, if they were to come back again next year, hat in hand, they don't meet the guidelines because they didn't produce us 1,000 people. That's a different conversation then. That's not where we are right now. Historically, I think this event has done well and met that guideline, and so that's the lens, I think, in which we have to view this application. In the future, and I want to be clear, I don't think that us doing it this time commits us to do this every time.
They have a trolley event every month. We cannot afford to do this mostly every month.
I think what's before us is this application.
What is it, 10
That's
times?
what I've come to, is what are the current policies and this application that's in front of us right now for this event?
I don't know. How many people did you have last year?
But if the current guidelines are 21 and up and no pay for the event, and it's a family event, then we don't fit the bill. And I'm not gonna look a gift horse in the mouth, but that's why I'm throwing that.
Policy doesn't say that.
That's not the-
doesn't
that's
say
not the
that,
guidelines.
Shelley.
We were turned down for
Doesn't,
So, okay, our events are usually about 12 a year, but we're cutting that down.
Can you go to the podium so we can make sure that we pick you up on the tape?
Do you want me to go to the podium?
Please.
Our trolley events were equaling about 12 a year. We have cut that back because we can't afford to do anymore. Sounds silly, that's our moneymaker, but we can't afford to do them. So we've cut them back to approximately 10. Those trolleys are how we plan to fund Easter egg hunt, business trick or treat, business gift, food truck rally on Lafayette, and it's how we were funding New Year's Eve and Pride. But we're cutting them back down to 10. We don't expect you to fund all 10 of them, but we need a little help to keep them going. That's it.
Thank you. All right, are we ready to take a vote now? Are we all comfortable with this?
Mm-hmm.
You've made the motion?
I made the motion.
What is the motion again, please?
To approve the spectacular sponsorship request, the amount of $5,000 to fund the trolley.
And you second.
It's to be paid to the trolley vendor.
Should they pay to the
To
trolley?
be paid
Up to
to
the
the trolley
$5,000,
vendor.
yes.
Can you call the roll, please?
Biondi.
I'm hesitant, but aye.
Brantley.
Aye.
Gebhardt.
Aye.
Keim.
Aye.
Slaughter.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes and the motion carries.
Okay. Okay, go back to work. All right, on to item E, the CRA Resolution 10-22 to rescind the previously approved tri-party agreement and approve the revised tri-party agreement between the CRA, the Cape FC LLC, and Huntington National Bank. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Call the roll, please, if there's any discussion first. Nope, call the roll.
Biondi.
Aye.
Brantley.
Aye.
Gebhardt.
Aye.
Keim.
Aye.
Slaughter.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes and the motion carries.
Okay, next item, comments from the board. We'll start with you, Tom.
Yeah, real quick, I would like to, probably in the next few weeks before our next meeting, set a very short meeting with the city manager for the purpose of, one of the things I did when I joined this board, but even before it was on, I acquired certain key documents, so I want to make sure what I've got is the latest and greatest, but strategic plan, CRA plan, economic development, and then not so much the comprehensive plan, but certainly that component that deals with the CRA. And then the exhibits I look at are future land use map, zoning, the CRA district, public right-of-way, capital improvements, utilities, and then lastly, the ownership map. Simply because at some of our discussions, it may be helpful as we're talking to throw an overhead up, so we know where we're talking about the map and whatnot. And then over time, some of our bigger issues that we will go into, you know, certainly council from strategic plan, economic development, they're setting a lot of direction for us. I think it's good because they're pointing us, I think, directions we want to go. So I think eventually some of these guidelines, we may have a better handle on how to write them in a way in which it reflects some of council's spending, you know, their expectations. So like I said, my thought was, since I'm relying on these documents that I already have, and I know Jim's got his own little workbook themselves, and I'm a desk book guy, even if it's electronic or otherwise. But my thought it'd be helpful to have that, because as we start talking about some of the places in our CRA, especially small area planning, that may involve things like right-of-way acquisition, utility improvements, and I think it'd be helpful to have that. So with that, I'll give you a
We'll
holler in
work
the
to
next
get that
week or two, but thank you.
Jim?
I have nothing.
Nothing? Janice?
The only thing is, I heard, did our new guy start today for the CRA? Is there any way we can just like meet him at a meeting?
Yes, Helen, do you have an update on the start of the new? I'm not, we'll look into that, but you can certainly, we will certainly bring him to the board.
Okay. That's it.
Okay, I guess it's me. I'm up. Just want to remind everybody, we're getting ready for the Veterans Day Parade. I know it's not until November, however, there's lots of work to be done between now and then. We're getting applications. We're going to try to redo the staging area to make it less controlled chaos. And if anybody has any groups or, groups, I guess, that want to join the parade, the applications are online at the city special events website. And other than that, everything else is good. Time and place of future meetings. Oh, does staff have anything? Oh, hello.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Rob Hernandez again for the record. I'd like to address an issue that surfaced in previous discussions with Shia, and that relates to planning for a New Year's Eve celebration. And I don't think we've had a conversation with the CRA board about that. So I think it's certainly perfect timing to talk about it since it's come up. So the City Council has expressed its desire to have another signature event in the South Cape for individuals to visit the Cape and celebrate, much like the city sponsors the Red, White, and Boom event. The City Council is looking for a similar event to celebrate New Year's, as many cities throughout the world, especially those communities that are on waterfront communities, take to the water to have these types of celebrations. So council directed staff to begin planning for an event that would essentially partner off of the success that we have with Red, White, and Boom and locate the event in generally the same area, which is Cape Coral Parkway, east of Del Prado Boulevard to the bridge, and to encompass Bernice Braden Park. So staff has already started the process of planning for that event, consistent with council's direction. Now, depending on what City Council ultimately decides to do with the budget, will determine whether we can pull off that event or not. I think we're estimating that it's going to be somewhere around the $150,000 range for that event. We have proposed that in the city manager's budget, and again, depending on how the discussion with the budget goes, if the budget is approved, we will have funding that the city's general fund is committing to the event. So the city is not looking toward the CRA board to fund that event, because we think that that event is much broader in scope than just the CRA. So that's something that the city staff will be undertaking in city council funding. But again, the direction from city council is, while certainly there can be partnership with 47th Terrace and other areas of the CRA, their desire is to host a family-friendly event with fireworks in the general area of Red, White, and Boom. So hopefully, and it's a free event.
A family event for New Year's Eve?
For New Year's Eve, correct.
Yeah, go ahead.
So if I can recall correctly, when the item was brought up, actually by the mayor at a recent, I don't remember if it was at a CAL or if it was at a regular city council meeting, I think he expressed his desire that it be located in basically the same area as Red, White, and Boom. There was essentially tacit approval by city council to move forward with that. I don't recall there being an actual vote, but again, there were no objections to the comments that were raised by the mayor to host it in that location. So we immediately went to work and started planning with having the event at that location.
The event that we had on 47th Terrace for New Year's Eve, we had that, I think, 2 years in a row, if I'm not mistaken. The establishments along 47th Terrace, out on the Parkway, I think probably even your nice guys, everybody in that South Cape area benefited from it. People went to the restaurants, they ate, then they went and, we had all kinds of activities going on. The ball drop, it was very well attended. There weren't 50,000 people there, but there were at least 8 to 10. And for a family event, I think that's a pretty cool thing. Red, White, and Boom is great. I'm not sure New Year's Eve on the bridge is something we need to look at, but that's not up to us, so. Just saying. Thank you.
Off topic, but kind of along the same lines. At the very beginning, I overheard somebody saying that Naples was going to stop having some events. And is that something that we can look at maybe scooping up some of those events in our area here?
That was in the news press today. that
Here, here.
They've had enough events. They're going to put a moratorium on events. So
I don't think it would hurt to
As
reach
far as,
out.
as far as we're concerned, as part of our strategic plan and economic development plan, and we had a great discussion about that today with the Cape Competes Advisory Board meeting today. You know, we're actually looking to attract more and more of those types of events because they bring outsiders to your community, and that's how you lift the prosperity of a community, by bringing outside dollars to your community. So that's what we actually want. Maybe they have more money than they need in Naples, but certainly we're open to bringing more green to Cape Coral.
Is there a plan to reach out directly to some of those event sponsors and
So I'm not familiar with that article today. Was it in the printed version?
Yeah.
The e-edition, okay.
their council meeting tomorrow, well, next Tuesday, I guess it is, to discuss if they want to go moratorium on events. They have a max amount and they don't want to do anymore.
Okay, that's, so I guess I'm old-fashioned. I still rely on the print version of the paper. And so it'll probably come out tomorrow, but either way, we'll have, you know, Maureen will research it for me, and we'll go to work and we'll contact those. First, we'll research those events and make sure that they are in line with the values that we have here in the Cape. And assuming that they are, then we will reach out and extend the welcome mat.
absolutely?
I have one more thing. The groundbreaking that we had for the Cove, are they starting anytime soon? I've had questions. They said you had a beautiful groundbreaking, but no, nothing's happening. And I was like, I think they're still waiting for permits.
Well, I thought that they were moving forward with doing some of the utility work, because I know LCEC has to relocate some lines. So there is a permitting issue that I am aware of that deals with the South Florida Water Management District. It's not necessarily specific to the Cove at 47th. It deals with stormwater drainage within the overall CRA district itself. And they are requiring us to actually go through an entirely new permitting process for that whole drainage basin.
Wow. Okay, that was one question. My second question is mooring walls. Are they ever happening anytime?
Yes, as a matter of fact, the contractor was selected, and I'm sorry, this is supposed to be Maureen Bice's meeting. I told her she was going to run this meeting, so. So I'm sure Ms. Bice would have told you, she has a report ready for you, that we have selected a contractor. We are negotiating with that contractor for a design-build contract, and hopefully we'll be bringing that agreement back before City Council sometime in September.
Okay, because I saw I forget if it was on the news or in the newspaper, that we actually finally got that sailboat out of the Bimini,
Yes.
and they were wondering what's happening next, so.
So that's it. In order for us to have a true mooring field, we need to have those anchors, the mooring balls anchored in
Right.
place, and we don't have that yet.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bice, for letting me speak.
If there's nothing else, now I just have to close my book there. Time and place of the next meeting is Tuesday, November 1st, in council chambers at 3 o'clock. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
You can't make the
Motion.
motion.
That was me. My voice changed.
I'm just waiting for y'all to wake up.
Thank you.